We had a lifetime ban on baseball dished out just a few days ago. Former Pirates and I believe
Padre.
Padres. Yeah, Padres. Tucupita Marcano suspended for life for betting on games. He did this while he was on the injured list with the Pirates back in 22. And, he was not in any of those games for the team, but obviously associated with the organization, bet on those games, and he gets the boot, along with four other players receiving 1 year suspensions, all I think minor league guys, except there was an A's relief pitcher
I do
who
have
got
names
who
if you
got a
want
year as
them.
well. Yeah, I had him, and then I lost him. Michael Kelly was the guy on the A's.
Yes.
Go ahead. You can
So
say the other.
Oakland Athletics reliever Michael Kelly, minor league players Jay Groom, who's a
Yep.
Padres pitcher, Jose Rodriguez for the Phillies, who's a Phillies infielder, uh, and Andrew. What is that name? Soel
South
Frank.
Frank.
I
South
probably
Frank.
butchered that one.
Oh, Frank,
Anyway,
yeah. Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks
Glad
pitcher.
you got it,
So,
buddy.
hey, I put my best foot forward. That's all you can ask for. Also,
I mean,
by the way, Ty, it was more than $150,000 across nearly 400 bets that
yeah. So
uh, Marcano placed.
Marcano. So all right. I'm gonna be as honest as I can about this because
I'm the Pirates guy.
and I'm not really trying to be funny about this. I'm dead serious. So I was reading into it, and he was like talking about they were talking about like, oh, he betted on the Pirates to win games. Like the thing about like if a criminal does something dumb enough to warrant getting arrested or thrown the book at, this is the same case. If you're gonna bet on baseball, which is like the biggest no in the rule book, and you bet on the Pirates to win games, that's what you're betting. Of course, dude, he lost. He only won like 4% of his bets. Of course, he only won 4% of his bets. Are you dumb? Have you watched him for the last 25, 30 years? I mean, obviously, like the moral of this is not him winning bets; it's him doing it. But like, dude, like get a grip. And you're doing this for what? Like he ended up losing, like as you said, 150 or $130,000, whatever it was, and now he's not
150.
making the millions. Yeah, and now he's not making the millions he was in the MLB. And like the other thing, I mean, you can relate that to like these other guys. I think one of them had only bet like $99. Dude, you wasted $99 for a year suspension and potentially more. Are you dumb? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. Will, I'll go to you first on this one. What are your thoughts on this? I feel like it's kind of becoming more and more of a problem recently in sports.
I'll keep my initial thoughts short and sweet. What a bunch of morons. That's pretty straight to the point.
Nice. Nice.
I think you stated exactly what the numbers and what you're risking versus what you're getting is just not worth it. As for this potentially being more of a thing, I do think this was just kind of a matter of time before players really started either betting on it or things started coming out about players betting because of how so many sports betting books are a part of baseball and sponsorships now, that even if they're very told like you're not betting, you can't bet, you get enough exposure to all the betting at some point, you might cave in.
Yeah, and it's not just baseball, right? Like we've seen that in other sports as well.
But something to think about on this, on another level, baseball's golden boy was just in a scandal about this because his translator did this. And you're essentially nobody in comparison. So what made you think that you could possibly get away with this?
Well, I mean, again, if you kind of look at it as a whole, these guys aren't thinking, right? Like, if you're weighing the salary that they're making and what they're going to make on sports betting, it doesn't even come close to like why even take the chance. I think
Well, I mean,
maybe
I
it's
kind of get
different
it
for
for the
minor league
minor
guys,
leagues.
but yeah, and that's what I'm gonna say. Like maybe the minor league guys, but like, dude, like you're risking so much. The funniest part about this, still to me too, is like not only are they dumb for doing this, they also suck at sports betting because most of them were like sub 20% success rate. So
Mhm.
it's one thing to be dumb. It's one thing to be dumb and bad at what you're doing. So it just does not make a lot of sense to me. Marcano, I know he wasn't a prominent name, obviously, but he's been in and around the MLB or AAA, bouncing between teams and stuff. And it's just like, man, like you kind of just threw everything away. It's a really really tough look in that sense. And once again, I mean, this is the MLB's big. Like I was reading, I guess it's posted in every clubhouse. Rule 21: you cannot bet on anything baseball related or anything with the sport, and you have guys doing it. I mean, Will, what is your take on, I guess, the harshness of this penalty as we've seen over the years, especially obviously relating to when a guy is betting on his own team?
I mean, it's pretty blatantly obvious. The rule says you cannot bet on baseball games. So if you're gonna break the simple rule, get out. I mean, it's 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 harder to, I guess, def- define what's acceptable, what's not nowadays, given baseball's taking in this sponsors, the sponsorships of the different betting books. But I mean, from a rule, from just the standpoint of it's in the rules that you can't bet, and then you bet. It's like, what do you want to do? It says don't do it. You did it. Get out of here. Plus, I
Yeah.
mean, thankfully, in these instances, it wasn't simply a matter of someone betting and throwing games. We can go back
Yeah.
way, way in the past if we really want to get into that. But um, so at least it's not destroying potential outcomes for games anymore. But it's still a big no-no.
Yeah, and straight from the source here, any player or umpire, or club official, employee of the team who shall bet any sum whatsoever. So literally, as the one guy did, like less than $100 in a baseball game in connection with the better, um, they shall be declared permanently ineligible. And it's just like, again, what the risk reward here is just so ridiculous that why you'd even think about this. John, I'll kind of throw it to you on this one. What is your kind of take on this as a whole, with these players and kind of what they've done for their careers now?
Well, I think they have a permanent spot in the Mexican League, Cuban League, Korean baseball, NPB, whatever they want to do. You know, but MLB, they're done. It's as simple as that. And I think Will put it perfectly when he made his first comment: morons.
Yeah, essentially where we're at. That as
Potentially
you mentioned,
millions.
yeah,
Potentially millions for
The game maybe an
it's
extra
$99.
just
100 at night.
yeah. And look, I understand in a sense, like now maybe it's different from maybe it's different from like an athlete standpoint who's actually playing, but as a fan, right, like when you're sports betting, you're doing it primarily obviously because there's a chance to get rich. I get that, but also it adds some suspense or it adds some entertainment to a game that you might otherwise just not care about. It gets your adrenaline going, but for these guys who are playing in major league stadiums, it just I don't know why it would be appealing to them again when they know the risk. And you're seeing this not only in the MLB, the NBA just had a case where a player got suspended. I mean, and that was a little bit crazier because he was playing and betting for his team to lose. But you had that. I mean, you had Ipe and Otani, and Otani's since been cleared for everything there. But you're seeing it more and more, and I think obviously sports betting and sports books and all this have become a lot more prevalent with our new times and all this, all these laws and stuff that have gotten passed. And I think it's just the access for players. It's so much more that it kind of makes it tough. John, I'm actually going to go back to you. Speaking of what I'm kind of talking about, like obviously sports betting is not new. It's been around for a long time. So before we delve into a little bit more, I kind of want to go back and recap, some of the instances that we've had in Major League Baseball over, these last 100 years or so. So I'll throw it to you now for that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So, going all the way back to the late 1800s, ladies and gentlemen, this goes on. Thank you, Maestro, for my lovely music. In 1877, members of the Louisville Grays admitted to throwing exhibition games for money. In 1903, which was the first modern baseball era, which was the first year of the World Series, it was nearly tainted. That exact World Series was nearly tainted by members of the Boston Americans. Catcher Lou Krieger, for example, was almost talked into throwing games by gamblers. Now we fast forward to 1919, probably one of the most famous, the Chicago White Sox and Shoeless Joe Jackson, forever known as the Black Sox, for throwing the World Series that year against the Cincinnati Reds. And they were banned by then-Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis, who instituted this policy that any player that is involved in gambling with baseball will be ineligible permanently. We're going to fast forward here to 1943. Owner of the Philadelphia Phillies, William D. Cox, was banned for life by Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis for making approximately 15 or 20 bets on his team, according to The Athletic. 1989, Charlie Hustle. Pete Rose is banned for life for betting on his own team between 1985 and 1987 while playing for and managing the Cincinnati Reds. Now we fast forward to 2024. We mentioned this briefly earlier. Ippei pleads guilty in connection to the Shohei Ohtani then scandal. His translator, Ippei Mitsuhara, I probably mispronounced his name, but whatever. Anyway, specifically on Tuesday, according to AP News, he pleaded guilty to both tax fraud and stealing nearly $17 million from an unsuspecting athlete's Arizona bank account to pay off his gambling debts. Now, later this year in 2024, Marcano is banned from baseball indefinitely, and across the league, 4 other athletes are suspended for a year. Thank you, Maestro, for your time.
And yeah, as you can see, was going to kill himself. Sports betting has been around for a while, and there's been obviously more serious cases with the Black Sox and throwing games and stuff. And while these are not the same level of throwing games, obviously the severity is still there. Will, in your opinion, do you think there should be a I guess difference if a player like Marcano is betting on his team, but he's not with them, he's not playing, he's not necessarily getting insider information? Should that lifetime ban be still enforced like it is for a guy if he was throwing the game?
I mean, the rules are the rules. I don't necessarily think immediately that there should be a difference. It's straightforward as a player, and maybe you have some type of influence anyway through contacting a player on the game that you're not in. So I feel like that rule should stay exactly as it is pertaining to the punishment, no matter if they're playing in the game or even on the team that's playing in that game.
John, I'm going to throw the same question to you. Do you think the rules are fair and just in the fact that a guy that is not affecting the outcome should be punished the same as a guy who is.
You can't make exceptions here, regardless of who it is. You have to, if you are found guilty of this, of betting on a baseball game, you have to have the same rules for Mercado as you do Ohtani. I mean, if Ohtani did do that, he would have been banned from baseball, and it would have been a huge loss. Thankfully, he wasn't. Mercado, on the other hand, regardless of the amount, regardless of whether he's on the team or not, he could have influenced that and been like, "Hey, buddy, I got a 14 parlay here, with Joe hitting a single in the second, and the other team's pitcher giving up, or striking out 7 guys for about 100,000. I'll split it with all you guys evenly." And he could have affected that. Could have affected it that way, and that's how you have to look at it on this stance, and that's just how it is. You can't make exceptions to the rule, regardless whether on the team physically or not. The fact of the matter is, they did what they did. They could have affected the game, and we saw in history that players did throw games when approached, and having that apple of Eden of gambling dangled in front of them.
I want to kind of tackle on real quick too, Ty, before you take on, is that I feel like something John said kind of is true than I think he even realizes, is that you can't make exceptions, but you also can't make the rules more convoluted, because the more convoluted they are, they accidentally will create loopholes. So making this rule as black and white as possible, where it's if you bet period on the rule or on any game, it's an automatic ban. I don't think anyone disagrees at all that it should be that black and white. If you're affiliated with the team in any way, you really shouldn't be betting on games, especially ones for games you're directly a part of in some way.
So, yeah, and I think that's true, because we literally just did a segment talking about how the MLB kind of has a lot of gray areas with these base runner interference stuff, and that's kind of affecting it. We've seen it with the interference at the plate too, and all this. So you're right. I think it has to be black and white. I think you can't stray from that. Now, in these cases the most recent cases, these 5 players, it wasn't found that insider information was being granted to them to persuade them. They were just betting. I think a lot of the minor league guys were betting on their major league teams, it looked like, or it seemed like. So I know I think Jay Groom was on Boston at the time when he was doing it, and he was in single A, but he was betting on Boston to win or whatever the case may be. And obviously not good, right? And it can't happen, but it's kind of it's a weird thing. And in this new day and age of this accessibility to sports betting, I don't think this is going to be the end of it. I really don't. I think that there is going to be other instances. Now, is there a chance that these guys see what's happening and they're kind of scared about what the outcome could be for them? And, oh, man, this guy just got suspended for life, or whatever the case may be. Maybe, right? But I just think that a player just sometimes, I think it's almost I don't want to say, force of habit or nature, but sometimes these guys just delve into things, and even though it's strictly prohibited, it's probably going to happen again. And I think, again, this will not be the end of it on that stance.